Hello children, welcome once again to this class of biology. And we in the previous video we had started chapter 3, that is the ecosystem, and that was part 1. Now today we are going to start part 2 of this chapter. Okay, so let me in brief just will recap those topics which we had discussed in the previous chapter. We had started off with ecosystems. We had learned what is ecosystem, what were the different types of ecosystem, what are the different components of ecosystem, what are biotic, what are abiotic component of ecosystem, and many other things with examples we had learned. Okay, so today in this part we'll learn about the interactions, the interdependence, the interactions between the components. Okay, so let's start. Now, since we know that there are various components of the ecosystem, what were the various components of the ecosystem? That is the biotic as well as the abiotic ecosystem. Okay, abiotic components. The biotic components are the living components and the abiotic components are the non-living components. So, these two components, they interact with each other. Okay, so in the ecosystem constantly they interact with each other. So here we'll learn more about the interactions between the biotic and the abiotic components, and of course the interactions within the biotic component. So let's move. See, here on the screen you can see the exchange of gases between the biotic and abiotic components. Now we know that since we have already learned about the ecosystem, that there are some physical components, some abiotic components are there, like air, water, temperature, soil, everything, isn't it? So there, the how do the exchange of the gases between the biotic and the abiotic components takes place. Now what can we see here on the screen? The figure which is displayed, this is showing the exchange of gases between the biotic and abiotic components. Now what is it? It is like, we know that many organisms, most organisms, we take oxygen from the air and return carbon dioxide in return through the process of respiration. Like respiration is a breathing breathing is a part of respiration, no, in which several organisms, most of the organisms, they take in oxygen and they in turn they give back carbon dioxide through the process. Then decomposers also in turn, decomposers, they release the carbon dioxide, they break down, while breaking down the dead organisms and excreta, they return back carbon dioxide. These processes would have caused an imbalance in the composition of air had it not been for the process of photosynthesis. If these processes continuously they occurred in the environment, then there would have an imbalance would have been created. Okay, so we can see how this cycle goes on, how the exchange of gases are taking place between the biotic and abiotic components. Now, since the green plants, we know that the green plants, they are the primary, they are the producers, they are the backbone of this community. Okay, so they help to maintain the right composition of air, okay, by means of photosynthesis and all. Now next, here we can see food chain. See, this ecosystem mainly consists of these different reactions, different processes which are taking place. Okay, different forms of organisms, how the energy flows, how one, it mainly basically it's showing the interdependence among the organisms, then the interdependence between the living organisms with the non-living organisms. So here we can see that the food chain and the food webs, the diagrams are displayed. So what do you mean by food chain? What do you mean by food web? You can see right from primary, like in the previous classes you might have studied about the food chain, I'm sure. See, what is a food chain, children? You can see here that the flow of energy is being carried forward, isn't it, in the form of, so several trophics are there, several levels are there. So from one level to another level, from that another level to the next another level, so this way that energy is flowing. Okay, so this is what the food chain. So what is the primary source of all energy? We can see the primary source of energy is the sun, isn't it? From the sun, the energy is obtained by the producers, that is the green plants, okay, and then from the producers it passes on to the primary consumers and then to the secondary consumers and so on, okay. So this is how the plant, being a part of this ecosystem, most important part of this community, how the energy is flowing from one level to another, okay. It is indirectly, it is showing a kind of interdependence among the organisms. Now on the next side you can see the food web, okay. So what is the food web? See, since we know what is a food chain, so similarly food web is a network of linked food chains. There are many food chains here, they are all interlinked with each other. So this is what the food web, okay. So when you read the figure, when you relate it with the book, then you can understand more, okay, in better way. Now here comes another interactions between the biotic and abiotic components. So already you have been explained that there are lot of interactions going on, taking place between the biotic and the abiotic components. So here also you can see how the living organisms and the non-living organisms, how the kind of interdependence and interactions taking place, okay. Next. Now here comes the pyramid of number. Children, what do you mean by pyramid of numbers? Often in maths and all you might have studied about the pyramid, no? So what is this pyramid of number? See, pyramid of numbers, since the diagram is displayed here on the screen, it is a representation, a kind of representation of the numbers of different organisms at different trophic levels of a food chain. You can see the primary, on the base of the pyramid the producers are seen, okay. Then on the producers the primary consumers are seen, then above the primary consumers the secondary consumers are seen, and above the secondary consumers the tertiary consumers are seen, and on the top of the pyramid you can see the apex predator, okay. So these are how you can see it shows the producers at the base with the various consumers, they are arranged successively upwards, okay. And one more thing you should make sure, you should remember that the number of organisms generally decreases at each level of the pyramid. Since the producers, they form the lowest level of the pyramid, then you can see the producers, in this cases the grasses and all, okay, far outnumber the consumers in the food chain. So they are depicted as the broadest part of the pyramid, okay. So this way how a fraction of energy is lost at each trophic level of the food chain. So this is showing the pyramid of number, okay. Now next, here comes the interdependence between organisms. Now you'll understand here, what you will understand, that how the organisms, they depend on other for food, okay. Then in turn how they are being utilized by other sources, okay. So let's see what all things are here. Interdependence, already you have understood that how one organism is dependent, they are benefited directly or indirectly from the other organisms, okay. So there are different forms of their benefits, okay. Now, like for example, the organisms which may depend on others for food, while some may depend on others for protection, okay, camouflage or shelter by forming a specific relationships called ecological relationship, where we have many other relationships, no. So similarly we have ecological relationship here, how on the basis of ecosystem, how one organism is directly linked with other organism, how that particular organism is being utilized by another form of organism. So these are the levels, the relationship which is being made ecologically, okay. So they are known as ecological relationship. Some ecological relationships are predation, symbiosis and competition. These are the three major categories of the relationships here defined in terms of ecology, ecosystem. So let's begin with the symbiosis. What do you understand by symbiosis? See, symbiosis means they include three different categories: parasitism, mutualism and commensalism. Now let's define what is parasitism, what is mutualism and commensalism. First of all, we'll understand what is predation, children, okay. Like in the previous diagram you had seen the apex predator on the top, the highest level category. So predators are it is this relationship predation since we are learning here. So predators, let me tell you, predators are those animals that hunt and eat other animals, like mostly the carnivores, no, the flesh eating animals. They hunt, they eat other animals. So their relationship with the ecological relationship will be predation, like tigers, lions, jackals, okay, wolf, eagles, etc. These are different forms of predation. Next comes parasitism. Parasitism means related with the parasites. Parasites, what are parasites? They are those organisms, those animals that benefit other organisms, okay, such as tapeworm. They use the host's body, means they live on certain organisms, and then they get their benefit from those organisms, okay. So they get benefit from other organisms, we can say, such as tapeworm, lice. Certain plants are also parasites, like dodder plants, mistletoe. These are all different forms of parasitic plants, and these are parasitic, of course, animals. Lice, you hope you understand, very often itching and all in our heads and all, the scalp, the small parasites often generate, no, because of the moisture and all, because of the dirt and all. So that is the parasite, okay. Then comes mutualism. Mutualism means mutual, एक दूसरे से, है ना, रिलेशनशिप जो है होता है, अंडरस्टैंडिंग होती, कहते हैं ना, म्यूचुअल अंडरस्टैंडिंग. सेम वे म्यूचुअलिज्म, ये भी एक कैटेगरी है, एक रिलेशनशिप है कुछ ऑर्गेनिजम्स का. इसमें क्या होता है कि टू ऑर्गेनिजम्स आर देयर, ओके. सो बोथ द ऑर्गेनिजम्स इन द रिलेशनशिप, they are benefited with each other, such as rhizobium. Now what is rhizobium? You will wonder what is rhizobium. Children, rhizobium is a form of bacteria, एक तरह का ये microorganism है, दे जो कि leguminous plants में होते हैं. Those plants, those bear pods and all, no, जैसे मटर होता है, other the pulses and all produce leguminous plants basically. So they live in the nodules of those plants. And what this rhizobium do? They obtain the atmospheric nitrogen, means एटमॉस्फेयर से नाइट्रोजन लिया, सॉइल में फिक्स किया, और फिर प्लांट्स को ये बेनिफिट करते, क्योंकि प्लांट्स को ग्रोथ के लिए नाइट्रोजन की बहुत ज़्यादा ज़रूरत होती है. दे नीड द मोस्ट नाइट्रोजन, ओके. सो दैट नाइट्रोजन इज़ नॉट डायरेक्टली इट इज़ नॉट यूज्ड बाय द प्लांट्स. First, these rhizobium bacteria, which are also known as nitrogen fixing bacteria, they obtain the nitrogen from the atmosphere, they fix it in the soil, convert it into the soil in the form of nitrates, and then it is utilized by the plants. So how the plants are getting benefited? Okay, so this is called a kind of mutualism. प्लांट्स के साथ रह रहे हैं और प्लांट्स को बेनिफिट दे रहे हैं, तो एक तरह का म्यूचुअल इनका रिलेशन है ना. तो दिस इज व्हाट द म्यूचुअलिज्म. Next comes commensalism. What is commensalism, children? A relationship in which one organism benefits from the other. ठीक है, ये भी सारे डिफरेंट कैटेगरीज हैं, ठीक है. तो सारे बेनिफिट्स से इसमें दिख रहे हैं. तो इसमें भी है कि एक दूसरे से बेनिफिट ले रहे हैं, जैसे शार्क हैं, वेल्स हैं, टर्टल्स हैं, है ना, मोस्टली जो मेराइन में जो एनिमल्स रहते हैं, वैसे भी और भी अदर ऑर्गेनिजम्स होते हैं. तो ये they follow a kind of relationship in which one is benefited from the other, okay. Then comes competition. Competition means जैसे कि we go for different competitions and all, no. So similarly here in certain organisms, they also compete with each other for various resources such as food, water, light and space. So these are the different categories of the organisms here, okay, in terms of ecology. So these are whatever I have explained now, these are all ecological relationship, okay. Now, so since we are learning part wise here in this chapter, we have divided into several segments here, different parts. So since this was video part 2, so here we'll learn only these terms, okay. Maybe in the next video you will learn more about the rest of the part which are there in this chapter, okay. So what all things we'll learn in the next video, the remaining part, that is the different types of ecosystem, no, like forest ecosystem, how many types of forest ecosystems are there. Then we'll learn about the tropical forest, the tropical deciduous forest and all, and then we'll come to the end of the chapter. Then we'll learn about the significance of the forest and significance of wildlife. So till here, whatever you have after watching the video, whatever you have understood, okay, relate it with your chapter. Children, do read your chapter well, okay, then only you will understand in a better way. एंड देन रिलेट ऑल द प्रीवियस वीडियोज़, जो भी चैप्टर से लिंक्ड वीडियोज़ हम बनाते हैं ना, आप उसको भी ज़रूर देखिए. एंड देन दैट विल गिव यू अ क्लियर व्यू ऑफ द कंसेप्ट, द क्लियर कंसेप्ट ऑफ द चैप्टर, व्हाट इज़ द चैप्टर, व्हाट इज़ डिपिक्टेड इन द चैप्टर. ओके, so keep learning children. Thank you so much for getting connected. Okay, stay connected. In case of any queries, you are free to contact. Okay, bye for now. Thank you and God bless you. Have a nice day. Okay.